Welcome to 13 Cents More, the podcast. I am E. Probilski, an author, editor, and book publisher. I have done all these different things for many years, and I am here to share book publishing insights, personal anecdotes, information about my books, and so much more. Let's get into it. For the purposes of this episode, I'm actually going to leave my notifications on and the sound on my computer. By the time we get to the end of the episode, you'll understand why. But if you hear noises in the background, know that it is intentional. This week we are talking about the importance of rest. And that is a topic that has been in my mind very much since I was on vacation. And during that vacation, I wrote about 30,000 words. And absolutely, it was still vacation despite all that writing. So I have a bit of a confession to make. Before I was gone on vacation, I had not written a single word on my fiction project in months. It wasn't because I wasn't trying, but I just plain couldn't get my head into that space, and no matter what I did, the words were not happening. I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and nothing came out. It was just garbage, or it was unusable. I have experienced this before, and before I left, I realized that the problem was, in fact, burnout. And I go through burnout pretty often. I'm physically disabled and autistic, so I struggle with burnout a great deal in my day-to-day life because I have to push myself really, really hard in order to get everything done. Don't get me wrong, I love my friends, I love my life, I love what I do, I love my colleagues, I have a really fantastic job and I adore it. But I also struggle with rest, and I'm going to explain a little bit why here as we go along. And while I'm speaking from a place of being a disabled person, I also recognize that there are plenty of non-disabled people who are going to be struggling with a lot of these same things. The world likes to pull us in so many different directions, and there's no calm in all of it. So one of the things I do want to mention before I go any further is that rest isn't just sleep. It's not just lying down on the couch and doing nothing. It is a whole lot more than that, in fact, at least in my mind, and I'll get a little bit into why in a minute here. So while I was gone, one of the things that happened is I wasn't constantly available to anybody. I just need time to not. On a day-to-day basis, I don't really get much of that time because I've been really busy. For example, while I was drafting the script for this and the post you see below, I spent about an hour staring at my screen, and during that time I got about 10, 20 different notifications, whether it was an email, whether it was a text message, or a message on one of the various messaging apps I've got. It was still a constant stream of notifications, and it was distracting. And I found it actually kind of overwhelming. After being gone for a week where there were no notifications, everything was quiet, and coming back, it's a lot of noise. Prior to me leaving, I just kind of filtered it out as background noise, but coming back from a place where I didn't have all of that sound, all of that constant stimulation, I realized how much background noise there was involved in my life, and that kind of gave me some food for thought. Now, the canonical advice, of course, is to turn on Do Not Disturb mode, close out of all the messaging apps and what have you, and that is absolutely true and can be helpful. My problem is, when I do that, I miss important messages from people I absolutely need to hear from. So clients, colleagues, friends, family trying to reach me about various and important things. And when I turn on Do Not Disturb or turn off notifications, I forget to turn them on again. Because my brain just is like, quiet, we're staying there. And while, yes, I'm very aware of the fact that Do Not Disturb, you can set it up on your phone to allow notifications and texts and calls from certain people or certain apps during certain times, it can be complicated because you can't filter out which people on those apps can contact you. So if I have a client trying to contact me on Facebook Messenger, for example, and I have notifications off, I'm not going to see it. And I understand that, yes, I could just start channeling all of my clients into one method of contact only. Unfortunately, that is not how I have operated for a very long time, and changing it now would be kind of difficult, so not really an option. Like I said, I've got clients and colleagues contacting me about work stuff during that time period, and it's important stuff. It's, things like projects I'm working on, or colleagues asking me questions, or people wanting to ask me questions about the conferences I'm part of and run, all that kind of stuff. It's not things I can just ignore. If it were, I would be in a far simpler place. I also want to note that a lot of my clients and colleagues are international, so they are contacting me at weird hours for me, but normal hours for them. So it's, again, layers of complexity. Now, yes, again, the basic rule of thumb here is to be just answering things during my work hours and not their work hours, which is what I do. I don't just answer at 3 a.m. when somebody messages me. But also, if I'm in downtime and using my phone for anything, I notice that I will have notifications. And I also know that if I check something that's work-related and I don't answer it immediately, I will forget to answer it tomorrow because I am neurodivergent, and that's just how my brain works. It will delete things if I don't address them now. So I have to address it now, or alternatively, leave the notification on my phone until tomorrow. So while I'm using my phone for downtime, I have this little notification just kind of circling me in orbit, just like, hi, I'm here. Every so often, it will just come into my awareness, and I'll be like, yep, I need to look at that tomorrow. And that means that my brain is never entirely off of work and at rest, because I always have these little things circling. When I'm on vacation, usually when I'm gone, one of the places I go is New York. My family has a property in upstate near Lake George, and the property has absolutely no cell phone service. There's no cell signal at all, there's no internet, there's no radio even, and there's no television. It is literally nothing. And I personally love it. There is a landline in case of emergencies, and if we need to access the full breadth of the world, then of course there is the internet that we can get to in town. We can either hop on at the cafe in town, or we can go to the library, or sometimes our cell phones get signal there. But when I'm not in town, I get nothing. And it's quiet. And still. And when those times happened, I just sat on the deck and listened to the wind on the trees, the birds, the water, because it's right over the lake, and I can just write quietly in the sun without anybody bothering me, except my husband checking on me to make sure I've put on sunblock and asking if I needed some water. And when I got that quiet space, that's when the words showed up. I hadn't gotten any progress on anything in a long time, but when I sat down in the quiet, the words showed up and I started writing. The first day that I wrote 5K words. The second day I wrote 7. And then the following 2 I wrote a little over 10. So I wound up with a little over 30,000 words that I put together while I was on vacation. And it was phenomenal. I'm very excited about this new project. Now, to be clear here, I am not suggesting that you drop everything and go out to a cabin in the mountains where there's no contact in the world, as lovely as that would be, but I also know that a lot of people that sounds like hell on earth, and for me it's absolute zen, but for a lot of people that lack of connection freaks them out. That said, I think we need to pursue that sense of rest. We need to pursue the quiet. We need to be in a place where there aren't constant notifications kind of circling our brains and all kinds of things trying to grab our attention without mercy. We live in a world where everything is trying to get our attention, and a lot of things are attempting to get us to buy them. It's a constant stream of marketing content and notifications and updates and people trying to play on our emotions to get us to feel things in order to take money from us. And frankly, that constant stream of people playing with our consciousness is exhausting. So how do you find that quiet place? I know a lot of people are really busy. You've got kids, you've got jobs, you've got obligations after both of those things. There's so much going on, and it can be complicated to try and find that quiet space for yourself in order to either boost your creativity or just let your brain chill. For me, I haven't figured out all of the details of how to create it at home yet, but there's the option of maybe setting up do not disturb hours on your phone. I know certain operating systems allow for that kind of stuff. I also know there's software that lets you do that on your computer, but I'm hesitant to do it, again, because I'm not sure which of the various applications that I accept through I should keep when, or if I should just shut down everything for a certain point of time and have my phone or my computer or whatever go into something called writing mode where there aren't any notifications, and I could do that for like an hour or 2. I don't know what it looks like for me yet. For you, it could look like that. It could look like taking a drink and sitting out in a chair on the deck while you write, or going to a park and turning off your Wi-Fi or something while you write. It might look like going for a walk in the park and leaving your phone on silent while you do. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you could use to create some quiet space for yourself, and all of those you're going to need to figure out what fits into your life and what doesn't. I can't, unfortunately, do that for you, but it will be a process that you can take to find quiet. And if you're struggling with work, if you're struggling with focus, if you're struggling with creativity, that quiet might be extremely important. And in a world where we're constantly being bombarded with attention and grabbing things, finding quiet is really valuable. I think for myself, I'm going to be working on this. For the last few weeks and prior to my vacation, I'd been sorting out what it's like to have an office and creating work hours for myself so that I wasn't always working, because prior to that, I was always on. If I was at my computer, I was working, whether it was 8 a.m. or 1 a.m. And yeah, it wasn't working well for me, and I was crashing in burnout really, really bad. So that's why I created my office. And I've been pretty successful with the process of creating my office and my work hours. My office isn't done yet, but I've made some pretty consistent progress towards making it look how I want and feel good. My next step is going to be finding ways, I think, to make quiet space for myself once my office is done, and how I can turn my office into a quiet space for myself, at least for certain periods of time while I'm writing or working. So how do you want to negotiate these silent spaces for yourself? How do you find them? What are you looking for? If you are struggling with writing and work in general, I think chasing that quiet for yourself is going to be a key to creating that ability to create again. Doesn't matter if it's for 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour, but I think taking some quiet time for yourself where people aren't trying to get your attention or where you're not constantly being bombarded with all of that input is really important and necessary for creative people. And it's extremely important for us as humans. Like, regardless of creativity, we were not built for the constant demands of society just slamming into us over and over and over again. Well, I didn't get a lot of notifications during recording here, which honestly kind of surprises me, because usually when I'm trying to record is when everything's trying to get my attention the most, it seems. The thing is like, prior to this, I was getting notification every 2-3 minutes, and it's really hard to focus and zero in on something when little notifications or noises pop up on your screen and are like, hey, so-and-so messaged you. Hey, you've got a new email. Hey, there's this breaking news thing going on that you need to pay attention to. And trying to get my brain into work when I have all that happening is so difficult. So chase that quiet, find some ways to create silence for yourself, or if not silence, at least calm. And let me know in the comments down below, or send me an email or whatever it is, and let me know how you go after finding quiet in your life. And if you can't, well, there are a lot of podcasts and videos and stuff online that talk about slow living and creating that quiet. Might be time to start looking into some of those. I hope you have a great week. I missed you all.